host, Sheila Seppi, and you're watching and listening to us on the Conscious Awakening Network. Now, if you have not already done so, I do ask that you go to your phone app store and you download our phone app so you never have to miss an episode. And you can also download our free apps on Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, Android TV, and Samsung TV. And that way you can watch us right in your living room. So thanks so much, and we hope that you will be downloading those apps. Now, as always, I have a couple of announcements. This weekend is the Angelic Summit, so please check it out on the Conscious Awakening Network. And on July the 18th, 19th, and 20th, we have The Truth is Out There. So visit Conscious Awakening Network, go to the events, and you can find out all the juicy information about what's coming up. And on Monday night, Ken Lloyd and I are going to be offering a special event on relationship and divine partnership alignment. So you definitely don't want to miss that. So you can register at kenlloydofficial.com, and then starting on July the 7th at 6:30 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time, I'm going to be offering healing sessions by channeling Andromedan Elder Mother Tiamu. So I hope you'll meet me there. You can go to my website at sheilaseppi.com, check it out under the groups, and sign up. You'll be able to see the next 16 episodes that we have coming up, because she gave me these transmissions as bam, bam, bam. And so I've already got those created for you, and I can't wait to see you there. Now, tonight, our episode features Julia Griffin, and Julia sees and reads energy to find its resonance with your soul. She gently guides you through the amazing process so that you can easily resolve the challenges of life, anything ranging from enterprise issues to those that are highly personal, as well as developing a skill set to exchange negative thoughts and emotions into positive ones. Now, your health, your energy, and your prosperity, as well as relationships, will improve as you gain greater understanding about your life. Unlike the solutions offered in traditional therapy, even in health self-help books, she will help create rapid, positive changes even in a single session. Her exercises and meditations facilitate your progress by making practical changes in the physical world so that your life reflects your inner and spiritual being, your one true self. And tonight, she's going to share the wisdom of the wolves, their views of the cosmos, the energy, and manifestation. So, Julia, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's an honor to have you here, and I am super excited to hear what you have to share with us.
Well, I'm going to start with I had always meditated and been intuitive. I was like the intuitive child of two Baptist people. So I didn't fit in, but they loved me. They knew I was usually right. But I started to meditate in high school because I was so different from everyone else.
Mm.
And I had been going through I just decided every day I would meditate for an hour or two. And I thought, I just really want to awaken. It seems like this would happen. And so I saw all the light underneath everything that was physical. It was in the fall, like the day that the trees turned silver and gold. And it was like the wind blew, and I could see that everything was light underneath it. And I thought, well, I knew I woke up. So now I know I'm going to get a teacher, right? So then, like 2 or 3 weeks later, my ex-husband asked me if I would like to see wolves. So I said, okay, we'll go. We took the kids. And as soon as I saw them, and they were not really domesticated wolves, I had to be in the pen with them. I couldn't even believe I did it because I'd always been afraid of wolves, because of our conditioning. So I went in and I told the wolf, he jumped up and put his paws on my shoulder and put his head against my neck. And instead of feeling afraid, I said, I know you want me to stay in the pen, so you have to be good. So he sits down, rolls on his back, and puts his feet up. So I get home, have dinner, and he starts talking to me, and he shows me how if he went through the woods, he could get to where I am. Then he tells me where this rare herb is that grows on the mountain. And I thought, gosh, I really have an active imagination. This just can't be real. Well, then he and the other wolf tell me all these stories that are wolf myths about how we came down from the light and came to this planet and our evolution here. Like not for everyone, but for most of us who are gifted, and I'm sure you are if you're listening, we were like complete. We just came into those bodies, but we came from, let's just call it outer space or another galaxy. And the wolves came with us, and they were our companions. And when we went through a dark point in the universe, they kept all of our memories so we could come back to who we had been. So, anyway, I'm writing all these stories down, and I want to go back and see the wolves because I can hear them all the time. Well, the day I went to get them, someone had decided she wanted them. At that point, hybrid wolves were legal in Georgia, and she wanted to breed them. And so when they were leaving, I said, could I please just have a minute with them before you take them? And she hesitated because she already had them in her SUV. And I started to cry. And she looked at me and she said, I know what it is to love a wolf. I have 10 at home. Follow me home. So then I go to her house. Well, now I have 10 wolves talking to me. So one of the very first things that they told me, two things to remember, and we can all remember that now. Anything that is particularly beautiful to you or moving to you or that you've always wanted, that comes from your heart and your inner self. And people always want to manifest, but what you really want to manifest is what comes from your heart and your inner self, because that gives you power, joy, and insight. And the thing about exchanging negativity for positive thoughts, the wolves taught me to do that. I had watched my brother die as a child, and took a long time. And my mother went through a breakdown, and I decided then I'm not going to lose what she lost. I'm going to stay me. And so I really worked for that. And I really didn't care that I was different or people liked me or didn't like me because I was different, but I knew I didn't fit in. Well, the wolves loved me so much that I was like, oh my God, I found some place in life where I fit in. I can hear an intuitive language. If they tell me something is going to happen in my life or to focus on something, it just happens. How did I miss out on all this before? So that was the beginning of it. So I can hear wolves. Next, I can hear dogs, horses, and all animals. I had a big herb garden, and I thought, I wonder when I'll hear plants. So I had this giant sage that I just dug up, and I was going to move it. And it's better for plants if you dig the hole before you put them in there because they know where they're going, right? And the plant said, I don't want to go in there. Put me somewhere else. And I was so amazed I dropped the plant. So then a couple years after that, I started to hear the thoughts of people. And then I started doing readings with animals. And then I started doing people because one time a lady said, you have to help me. I said, I don't do people. And she said, but you read me through my dog almost every week. She said, you've got to read me. So I did. And then I worked lots of places. I worked in Atlanta for a while. And, like at a chiropractic or a wellness center. Because the weird thing was when I cleared someone, everyone in the office, their spines would straighten out. So they really wanted me there. So, which is weird because I've never had any of this happen. I'm just kind of going like, what the heck? You know? She's like, no, no, you have to stay. You have to come in every week because all my clients are getting so much better and they think it's me, but it's you. And I said, well, I don't care. If your clients get better, that's great with me. So, that was sort of the beginning of it. And then as I read more and more people, I saw that there's similarities. Whenever something is wrong, we kind of are not hearing our inner self as well as we could, or we're not going to the next level. And we also have a series of emotions, thoughts, and beliefs that separate us through what we want. But if you go to a higher vibration or a higher thought, you can get through that. I mean, I'm really simplifying it, but still, it's the same thing for everybody. You know that.
I'm just finding it totally amazing that you were able to connect on that type of a level. You were able to transfer that over to your friends through their animals. And then you were able to work out of that chiropractic office, make the changes that the chiropractor was very happy to take the credit for.
Yeah. I don't care who gets the credit. I just want it
Right.
done.
Right, I understand that. So now, do you have to spend time with the animals, or do you just have to come in contact with them?
Well, I can call on the wolves right now because the wolves that I worked with now are long gone, but I can call on their spirits or I can ask for the wolf spirit, particularly if I'm confused or things aren't going well and they just come right through for me. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I can sit on the deck right now and the trees and the birds and the earth will help me. If I meditate there, they'll just pour energy into me. Like I
Beautiful.
wondered why I hadn't seen any deer around. And then the next day, 40 of them just run right in front of me in the yard. I'm like, okay, there you are. Thank you.
Wow. Wow. So when you connect in with the wolves, what are some of those deep, soulful teachings that they've brought to you?
Okay, well, the first thing to know is wolves love about 10 times more than a human being can because they have no fear. They're so powerful and they're not, animals are not afraid of death. They might not want to leave you, but they really don't have any karma other than they want to come here and help us. So they're fearless. So if you have no fear about love, you can just love. It's an immense love, it's a protective love. And they see things really differently. I know one time in the winter when the days are so short and my son was young, he didn't come home. I couldn't find him. It was dark. None of his friends knew where he was. They had seen him earlier. And I thought, I am going to be so mad at him. I'm going to make it so he'll never do this again. And my wolf said to me, she said, you better think about how you love him and what you like about him, or you might not ever get him back. So I started thinking about how much I loved him. And he told me they'd been building this giant subdivision, that he had gotten separated from everyone and couldn't find his way home. And he said, just all of a sudden, I could feel you and I knew the way home. Like
Oh,
that's a wolf lesson.
beautiful, beautiful. And so when they share these teachings with you, are you writing these down? Are you are. So tell
I
us
write
about
them down. Well, my newsletter every week, I write it on the full moon because that's when they're the most vocal.
that.
And
Hmm.
according to them, the wolves, the coyotes, the whales, and the dolphins, they have sonar and they sing a song of creation for the entire planet. And if we know that that's happening, we can tap into it and it carries us forward. But the song of creation is about finding the part of us that can create because it's so discouraged when you're a child. Like if you say, I dreamed that, your parents will say, no, you didn't.
Right,
But
right,
you did, you know.
right,
And
right.
it's just really deep. They really love people who are who they are. They
Mm.
don't, very polite, domesticated wolves are. They understand they have to be nice to everybody if they want to stay in the house and go hiking and things like that.
Wow.
So, they're polite, but the people that they really love and like are the people who have that quality of being intuitive and of knowing who they are on some level. Although I really didn't know who I was when I first started with them. But I mean, by the time you've got, 10 or 12 wolves and you're saying, let's go over there, and they look at you like, yeah, you lead the way, you start to feel a lot better about yourself.
Right, right. Now you mentioned your newsletter. So
Hmm.
other than connecting with wolves, I know you've got a lot going on. You want to share some of the other things that's happening in your life with everyone?
Sure. I teach an awakening class. It starts in mid-July this year. It goes for 9 months. We do an hour of meditation 3 weeks out of every month. And it's interesting because what I try to do is just hit a high frequency and we do meditations. But you don't have to do anything but listen. Like sometimes I'll really go
Come on
deeply into
in. I'll be on
teachings,
mute. Come on in.
but it's fine if you don't get it. You'll still get the energy. Like even people in Europe who can't attend, they say they feel it from the night that I do it. So it's sort of a projection of energy, but we do study a lot of things. A lot of pretty esoteric occult energy, I think would be a good way to say it. And then
Okay.
we probably have 30 minutes of different kinds of meditations. I've made up so many meditations right now. I don't know, what I'm saying. Sometimes we go to the stars, sometimes we go to Avalon, sometimes we go to the island in our heart. Sometimes
Mm.
we call on angels. So it's just whatever I feel from the group. And then with that, you get email access to me, which only normally people who talk to me weekly or biweekly get. And you can ask questions and you can learn with a group. And it really is a great vibration. I do individual readings for people, half hour, an hour. And we just work on wherever you are. I've had wonderful things happen, like someone in their 70s who's never been in love. He met the love of his life. I've had people who've had marvelous healing from things that, they said you won't live. So we've had that. And then we've just had people who are happy for the first time in their lives.
Oh,
You
that's
know, and that's to me, that's just as good as any of the others. That's a miracle just
right.
to be happy. Oh, but I was going to say the way I grew up as a child, I talked about my brother and my mother. I had periods of depression every day when I would remember it. And with my first wolf who lived with me, Maya, I was feeling that way. And I sat on the sofa and she came and lay down next to the sofa. And I was like half asleep. And all the best memories of my life came up. And that started happening to replace those periods of depression that I'd had in the past. That's like wolf therapy.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, I also know you have a podcast.
Yes, I do twice a month with Transformation Talk Radio. And you were on that and you were wonderful. It was such a fun conversation.
It was a fun conversation. So, do you want to tell people, will they find that on YouTube or will they find your podcast?
Well, they can go to Transformation Talk Radio and type in my name and it will come up and they can find it.
Great,
I,
great.
I think Jennifer Hoffman and I were talking about this new moon because there's a lot of new energy coming in on it. It's a good one.
Uh-huh.
And then just kind of some of the energies that are available. On that note, the wolves told me the last full moon that an energy that had been turned off for some time that has to do with manifestation and how you live your life is just now being turned back on.
Mm.
You can feel it when I say it, but I still don't know exactly what it is. But they said it would make it much easier for us to create in the future.
Nice. Now,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious. Is there like a specific chakra or an energy body where the wolf energy kind of tends to work more often or is more powerful?
Well, when they used to go to classes with me, and yes, I used to take them to classes with me, if someone wasn't getting it, they would come and sit in front of them and stare at their heart chakra and not move. Now, for me, I tend to feel it in my third eye and in my second chakra because it's very, very physical to me. If you've never been with a wolf, it's like all of a sudden the whole natural world is like 4 or 5 times as intense, and you can feel the energy of the earth vibrating out. And like let's say you have a place in the woods, and I've done this, and you go with a wolf. It is just amazing, and they look like they're twice as big the second that they're out there. It is really quite a trip. And they tell you about things like don't go over there, that energy isn't good. Or if you get lost, they'll come and find you and take you back.
And you don't have to physically have them in your presence, correct? Once you connect with them, then
Hmm.
you can communicate with them telepathically. So does
Yes.
that mean that they serve kind of like as a spirit guide or a totem energy? How exactly does that work?
Well, they feel that they're a totem energy for our planet just simply because they remember everything we forgot. Like we don't remember what it was like when we came here and we were so gifted and everything was so perfect, and how you could align with a star and fill up with its energy, or how you could ask a tree or a crystal to make something happen for you.
Yeah. So I know you said they've been talking to you about manifestation.
Hmm.
Do they speak to you anything about timeline shifts or
That's
anything about the
that's what I
planetary
think.
network?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a timeline shift that they say something's changing and it will make it easier. But they just say that we all need to focus on that more because that's where our power is and we tend to forget it. And
Mm,
it also puts you in a place of love because if the universe answers you, you feel loved.
right.
You're
Nice.
like, the universe hears me. The universe loves me. Okay, someone's putting up women who run with the wolves. So whoever believes in that, I dare you to take off your shoes and go running with a pack of wolves. It's nothing like what she writes about, although I love her stories. They can carry you energetically so you feel like you're floating above the earth.
Mm, mm.
I mean, you feel like you could run forever.
Yeah. So it seems like they really have that ability to connect, to tap into the heart, to be able to really lift you up,
Hmm.
um, and to provide guidance.
Yes, they do. And they're also very blunt and very frank. And it took me a long time to learn not to say things like that to people, the way that they said them to me,
Mm.
because I was still married when I was seeing them. And I kept saying, let's do something to make my relationship with my husband work. And they would just look away like, oh, she's so stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if they didn't approve, they let me know.
Wow.
They had really strong feelings because I know the lady who had them, she had a boyfriend and she said, ask them what they think of my boyfriend. And they said, you're just using him for sex. So she didn't want any more information after that.
And
So
did she say, and that's just a little bit TMI?
yeah. She stopped asking me so many questions after that. At first, she was like, she just ask and ask and ask, and then she didn't. She
Yeah.
didn't believe me at first. But the first time that I spent the afternoon with the wolves, I called her back and I said, your wolf Liesel wants oatmeal for dinner. And she said, well, do you think that wolves eat oatmeal? And I said, I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but that's just what she told me. And then like 4 or 5 years later, she told me that was when she knew it was real because Liesel's favorite food was oatmeal.
Mm. Wow.
So that's one thing I could always verify whatever they told me.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. So, just a moment ago, you were talking about all these different meditations that you
Mhm.
have, and not to put you on the spot, but do you happen to have a meditation that you could share with us tonight?
Sure. Let's just do an easy one. Let's draw a circle on our chest.
Okay.
And oh, okay, great. The wolves are going to come in. So let's imagine that we have a pink circle, or they're seeing a really vivid blue circle, like an ultramarine blue, which would be power. So let's feel power coming into our hearts. Okay, I'm just going to channel for a minute. Okay, so we all know what we really want. So let's let this power that's accumulating in the heart, let it build up and feel that power creating the form of your desires and of what you love. Let it build up again. You'll have so much of that blue light in your field that we're projecting it outwards into the world. So send more blue light, let more come into the heart, then let it go out. And feel the beauty of your power to create what you want. And let that blue light come in again and align you with it. And feel as though it's already here with you now. Okay, let's power up again the blue light. I say most people forget that they have power. Most people forget that they can create change. Most of us forget that we have a choice of thoughts. And people also forget that when we are sort of spaced out, not paying any attention, that we're thinking things. So stop that. Make your thoughts conscious, very conscious, and align with that future that you want. And align with people who will encourage you and feel the beauty and the rhythm and the magnificence of your soul. And feel the person that you were before you came into form, because you had so many astonishing powers, and start to activate those powers and let those powers become real in your life. Okay, they said that's enough for now.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, do you recommend that people power up before they try to connect with the wolves or really with any other
with
type of
anything.
spiritual energies?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to accumulate energy. I don't think I ever would have been able to hear them or meet them if I hadn't been meditating so much at the time. And all day long, I would come back to the mantra of awaken because I just thought it's crazy to do all this work and not wake up.
Right, right. So I'm sure that there was a point in your life that you had that aha moment. Can you share that with everyone?
Yes, the first one was the one I described when I could see light in everything. I mean,
Right,
I understood at that point it's not just a crystal or whatever it is, it's a formation of light. And we know that from physics and physical science, that everything is light. It's just vibrating so slowly that we feel density and size and physical presence. But underneath it, it's light. So I got that. But then the next part was, I think it's something that we all know, and that is that everything is speaking a hidden language. And it's a good language. And it's all about everything getting better and feeling better and letting nature help you and coming back to that beautiful presence.
mm,
And to me, that's what real awakening is when you start to see that light. It doesn't mean that everyone is connected with it, but it
right,
means that it's there. And I always thought that was just the most amazing thing. So, the first thing is the love and light. The next thing is you start to see that energy has rules. Energy works a certain way. Like the more positive you are, and it has to be real, you can't just say positive things to yourself. The more things change and fall into a different pattern, and the more you understand. I mean,
beautiful.
just because it's a funny story, I saw neighbors across the street getting two great big boxes, and I thought, well, what is in those? And I saw cat food. So I took the dog and we walked next to that, and I looked and it's from Chewy, and they only have cats. So I thought, yep, I was right. But I mean, I'm not trying to do that, but it gets to the point that that becomes natural.
Mm,
And we're
wow.
all that way. We just don't let ourselves go there. But the power up is certainly part of it.
Mm,
Because when you're in a wolf's presence, they power you up.
wow.
Because there are like 10 of them and one of you, right?
Right. So I want to kind of circle back a
Sure.
moment to your podcast. Um, and I know you've had this, you're doing it a couple times a month, and you have a plethora of all types of people that come on. Are you starting to hear any themes about planetary shifts among your guests?
Yes, everybody talks about it. I would say let's say 80% of the people talk about it. Out of that, I would say about 30%, 20 to 30% feel accurate to me.
Mm, great. So, what are some of the shifts that they're describing, or some of the things that we might be able to look out for?
Well, one thing that I already know, and you probably all know it and have felt it, I think one of the things that of the instability, now this is what the wolves tell me, but all the power points are shifting. Like I'll give you a good example. I live in Georgia. It's shifting away from Atlanta, but they left the one in Savannah. Who knows why? But it's doing that all over the world. And I've noticed that when they're shifting more, that there's people who are more upset. And it
Mm.
makes sense because they've just used up all the energy. They're usually big cities wherever there's a power point.
Oh, wow.
We're a sacred place that a lot of people go, but the sacred places have been so misused now unless they've been hidden.
Right. And a lot of these sacred places, especially across the planet, are on the crystalline ley lines. And just like within the physical body, we have those nodes everywhere that the grids cross. And I think it's the same thing in the within the crystalline grid system. Those nodes are starting to get clogged up, you
Right,
know, because I'm also noticing that in people, because when I look at them, they're like the grid system. We've talked about that before. But these distortions are getting different shapes. They're
right.
also all shifting locations. And I might be working on something with the heart that has something to do with spirituality, yet it's a little bit higher. It could be next to the celestial body as opposed to what I'm used to seeing. So I think that humanity itself is also shifting along
Oh,
with
I
the
think so too.
planet.
Yeah. And I think that's why sometimes we see that a lot of people die at one time. They don't want to go into that shift.
Right. Yeah. And there have been a lot of people passing, that's for
I
sure.
know, that's what I mean. But then there are also people that it's causing them to wake up and to get better.
Right.
But I
Right.
do know that there's a certain feeling I associate with it. And I've learned to think, oh, the grids are moving, or oh, the PowerPoints are moving, those
Right.
kinds of things. And I do think from what I've been told that we're getting closer to a way of not needing to ruin the planet to have plenty of energy
Right.
and to have things work. I don't know how that overlays with the system that we already have, but I have faith in it.
Yeah. I know that, in the sessions that I have, there's these old patterns that are starting to come up that are to be healed. And if you look, they can also be applied to, the planet itself. There's all the abandonment, the rejection, all of the guilt and the shame, everything that humanity is carrying is either being reflected onto the planet or the planet is on, reflecting it onto the humans. But I do believe there is that symbiotic relationship, and a lot of people will be able to hold that energy of the earth themselves, and they kind of act as a clearing conduit for a lot of
Mhm.
the earth energy. Do you find that the wolves are also doing the same thing? Are they pulling up and transmuting the energy with the individuals that they're in contact with?
They say that depends on the individual. For the people who are really working, they will help them with it.
Mm-hmm.
But they just say they have a message, they put it out for those who are awake and those who want to hear it.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
hope that it's a lot of people, but they have no way of knowing because you have to realize that wolves were almost extinct 30 years ago. And they said that a particular star in the universe began to glow and shine, and their numbers came back, and they had no idea that that would happen.
mm, beautiful,
You can
beautiful.
feel that one.
Yeah,
And then, as far as the earth, one of my students and I were talking, and she loves to garden as much as I do. And we were talking about it and how good it felt and the different plants. And all of a sudden, we just got like this amazing wave of green energy. You could feel the whole earth going like, oh, that's how I want everybody to feel about me. Because I
yeah,
was saying, it's easy to do too much, and then you come in and you're sore and your hands hurt and all of that. So I've been setting a timer so I don't go over 30 minutes. And she said, do you ever go in before it goes off? And I said, no, I don't want to go in then. I'm just sparing myself, but I'm so happy with all the
right,
noises and the earth and the way it feels. And it was like the earth just answered us on that. It was just incredible.
right. I remember as kids, we always went barefoot. We
Hmm.
always ran around. We were always outside. But it seems like society anymore has gotten disconnected. Everybody wears their shoes. They have the rubberized soles when they go outside. They don't really want to absorb the rays into their skin. They cover up with sunscreen. It seems like it's a totally different mindset as opposed to dropping into that true rhythm that
Yeah,
nature has.
that vibration. And it's so strong if you're with wolves. And by the way, wolves love to play. They play their entire lives. And sometimes I would play with them in a stream for an hour or two. And that was just so amazing because they took so much joy in it. And I really hope that can come back for all of us soon.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of us have forgotten to play.
Hmm.
We watch little kids and we laugh and we say, oh, they're having so much fun. But it's like they embrace every minute. Everything is new, everything is fresh. They're always discovering. They look at something and they may see it as a toy or, oh, I could build a house with this. Their imagination really runs wild with them. And I
Oh,
think that's
yeah.
something else that we've forgotten. We've tried to socialize ourselves beyond being able to experience.
Yeah, or just being silly or saying, look at this beautiful rock I found. And someone says, oh, well, those are everywhere. Well, no, they're not. That's your rock. Just like we all have a star.
Right, right.
I mean,
So,
all children say that. Look, there's my star.
yeah, yeah, they do. So, of all those stories that you've written about the wolves, are you planning to publish that in a book at some point and share with
Well, I'm going to
everyone?
send it to someone who wants to see if he can get it published for me. So we'll see what
Right.
happens with that. And then some of the stories I'm telling you are the wolf myths. And one of the things they said is that in the beginning, it was just spraying with food all the time. You never had to think about it. You could think, I want an apple, and it would appear in your hand, or you could pluck it off of a tree. But then they said when things began to change, and I think this is when we dropped some of our abilities, we were so polarized that there was winter and summer, really hot, long summer, really cold, long winter. And one year when there was no food, the wolf stayed with the woman and the man went out to hunt. And they hadn't been able to get any game for a long time. So the wolf told her to paint a picture of what she wanted her husband to find. And so she did a certain number of deer and plants in a place. And when he came home, that was exactly what happened. Well, that's probably true, but that's sort of what we should be doing with manifestation too.
Yeah. So, what do you think is one of the primary reasons that people are not to manifest?
Well,
Um,
first of all, it's lack of imagination.
yeah,
The second thing is being serious enough to do it every day. I mean, if you want to do it 10 minutes twice a day, you'll be surprised at what changes. The first thing that happens when you start, at first you feel good. After about 2 weeks, you start to hear your internal dialogue, all the different ways you've been telling yourself you can't have what it is. So you work through that and tell yourself it's the opposite. Like if there's a concern about abundance and you say, money is pouring into all of my accounts. I have more money than I can spend. You take it the other way. Or if you're trying to exercise and you've decided it's not doing any good, then you change it to, I can already feel what I'm going to look like a month from now. Anything. If you haven't been sleeping, then all of a sudden you're like, no one knows why, but I sleep wonderfully at night and always have good dreams. So you counter that. And it's even better if you can use visuals while you're doing it. And so you go through that, you get closer. And this is when most people stop because you've been working on it then for 2 or 3 months. So you're happier. Why are you happier? Well, you can only create with universal energy. And that universal energy comes in through your inner self. That's the real secret, not the book, not the rich people. The secret is your inner self and your connection to the universe. And so that's when a lot of people stop or they say they don't really want that or they don't want to go any further. For the people who want to go further and have a real reason to, or something that's joyful that they really want, everything will change.
beautiful, beautiful. So, one of the things when we manifest, I think that happens is exactly what you said. We begin that self-talk. It's like, oh, I want a new job, but I don't know how that's going to show up. I don't know how, if I'm really ready to let go. And there's a lot of fear involved. So, can you kind of speak to that just a moment?
Sure. When people work with me, I hold their visualization for them, which it's way easier because I'm not experiencing it. But I don't know why, but these real estate examples are coming up. I had someone in the northwest part of the United States, and they wanted to sell their house for a certain amount. They had no bids. I said, let me have 2 days to work on it. So I think they got $1.5 million. That was good. Then I had someone in New York who was selling an apartment, and she said, all the best realtors have told me that I can't get what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I think it's going to be like 9 million. And I said, let's just make it 15. And she said, Julia, No one is going to give me that. And then she met a real estate broker at a party who had a client who wanted to buy it for that amount. So
Beautiful.
it's like a wrinkle in time. You skip from the spot you're in to the spot you want to be. But it's a lot easier when someone else is pushing your energy in that direction.
Right, right, right.
And
So have you
probably we
had,
could do it, all do it for each other if we really
Mhm.
tried.
Right. Yeah. I was going to ask if you had any helpful tips if people are trying to manifest. So it sounds like if you have a partner that can help to support you to hold that energy, that it
Yeah, it
would be
helps
very helpful.
tremendously, particularly if they're intuitive or psychic.
Hmm.
And you'll know when it's working because there's a warm feeling. This is one way that you can identify how someone's energy feels to you. You should have more energy and it should feel warm.
Yeah.
And it should feel like there's no particular reason for things to work, but they're just working.
And so is this is one of those times that you want to power up and connect in with the wolves?
Hmm. And the other thing I tell myself is no one knows how it happens, but it does. Because if we all say, well, how? Well, if you study quantum physics, how is a part of it. It happens on its own because you're at a higher vibration. When you get to a higher vibration, the quantum field comes in and everything responds in a way that's not predictable.
Mm,
So you
yeah.
take the how out. And the thing of saying no one knows how, no one knows why, no one knows when, you cancel out the logical mind.
Right.
And then another
So
thing that works is to say the universe really loves me and it hears me and it's making my dearest dreams come true.
wonderful. So I'm just wondering, with everything that you've written down,
Mhm.
and I know we've talked about manifestation. I know we talk a little bit about how to connect with the wolves, and we've talked about, powering up. Is there anything else that we have not hit on that you are really wanting to share with people about the wolves, or even the book you're writing about the wolves?
They're some of the most magnificent and knowledgeable creatures on the entire planet. They know the history of the planet. If you've ever been aligned with wolves, they've been at all your initiations of the soul. They've shown up for those. They may have been in the woods. You may not have seen them, but I guarantee you they were there. They know what everyone is thinking, which is how I learned to do the thing I did. Um, like, for example, one time someone said that their wolves weren't happy. And so I said, so tell me what you do with them. And they said, oh, we do all this and we take such good care of them. And then the wolves told me, no, they don't. They go inside and drink wine and watch television. And so I told them that. And they were like, well, how did you know that? So
Oh
that's what
my
I
God.
mean. You start to see through things. So it's like someone will tell you something and I'll think, oh, no, that's not true, but just go ahead. It's fine. And so
Wow.
that part of it is funny. And they have a great sense of humor. One time they sent me all these different symbols, and I guess I wasn't getting them. So I had worked in art, so I kept having this dream every night that I would go see this art exhibit with these symbols and the wolves would be there. And finally I figured it out. And they just looked at me like it was the funniest thing. They had tricked me. Oh, so this is super important. So I was a vegetarian during the time I was seeing the wolves, but I would stop and get them chicken livers every week when I went to see them, which just totally grossed me out. You know, when you're not eating meat, you don't want to pick up chicken livers. So anyway, one week I decided I can't do it. I'll just get them milk bones. Well, they were just as happy with that. So I said, so why did you make me get you chicken livers? I couldn't even drive by the store without getting big things of chicken livers. And they said, to show you how easily you're influenced by thoughts from other people and wolves.
Oh. So, in other words, their thought processes are traveling along all those ley lines and influencing us. And that was the way that they were showing how we're influenced by others in our environment, in our workplace, even people that we come in contact with, even if we're not spending a lot of time with them, can end up depositing, different codes into our field that are totally counter to what
Right.
we're used to experiencing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what they were showing me, that that was just such a normal thing. And we all have to learn who's doing it and how to get rid of them.
Right. Wow.
And so that was huge. One thing that they did that was really cool when I used to take them with me in classes in Atlanta is that if I was late, they could just like focus on a point that they wanted the car to go in. And it was like half the time would be gone.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know how they did that, but I thought that was amazing. I thought, well, no wonder they can catch deer. Although, just so everyone knows, any wolf that's been domestically raised cannot catch a deer. They have to be raised in the wild and know how to work together. And
Mm,
every single member of the pack has a different role. This part is fascinating, though. Only the alpha wolves have the stories of the wolves, and
mm.
they tell them to the other wolves almost every night. You know, like they have a real mythology. That's how complex their minds and the things they do are.
So it's an oral tradition. Obviously, it's not
Hmm.
written, but it's an
Right.
oral tradition that they're passing down from one alpha to the next. And do they know when a young alpha is coming up in
Yeah.
a new pack? And then
Yeah.
they start when they're that young before they even take leadership?
If there is a younger alpha wolf, that one will become the beta. When she gets older, that one will become the alpha. The beta will become the alpha. And
Be-
sometimes they do allow the beta wolves to have cubs, but usually it's only the alpha that gives birth because they have a controlled population, or they have their own way of controlling the population.
Well, it sounds like.
Hmm.
Wow. All
So,
right. Well, if people want to contact you and they want to learn more about the wolves, how can
mhm.
they do so?
Okay, I'm going to say one more thing because the wolves are asking me to. About half of human illness and half the things that happen that we don't want to have happen or we don't get to the things we want come from other people's energy and they're blocking us. So that is a really important thing to be aware of. And so to find me, just email me at one true self, O-N-E, true self, at gmail.com, or you can go to my website, onetrueself.com. And there is
Beautiful.
a page on the wolves and an exercise if you want to experience it for yourself, a dreaming
Awesome.
exercise. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you have a list by chance? Like if people want to, contact someone that has wolves
Well, I
that
don't
they
really
might know?
know now. My friends did have places in North Carolina, but they don't anymore. So I would have to go myself to say whether or not I thought that it was good. I think that most of them are not because either they're taking a wolf out to have more people come in or they're just wolves in pens. You know what I'm saying? They haven't had that really deep contact, but it's still a wolf rush.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, though, if there are certain types of wolves that would communicate differently, in different settings. I'm sure if people have them as pets, they're going to respond much differently than if they're semi-domesticated.
Right. They still talk to me. And when my friend had a sanctuary, if I called, they would all just howl so much we could barely talk. You know, they knew it was me. They could feel that right away. So, I mean, they would probably feel you. There are a lot in North Carolina that you could look up and see what they are.
Wow. So when you said that they felt you,
Hmm.
do you think that you have a distinctive vibration that's
Yes, just like
associated
you
with the
do.
wolf? Right? But that the wolves pick up on that
Oh,
says,
yeah.
"Oh yeah, she's one of our pack."
Yeah, because they're like in North Carolina where they're still legal, I would say there are a lot of mostly dog, but part wolf. And I was dating somebody once and there were two of them that came up and started to yodel at me. And I laughed and he said, "You're thinking they're part wolf." I said, "I know they are. A normal dog doesn't yodel at me like that." And he
Mhm.
asked the man, he said, "Does that dog have any wolf in it?" And he said, "No, I got that at the Humane Society in Highlands, North Carolina." So, you know what I'm saying? There are lots of them that the owners have no idea, but the second they see me, because they're all over Asheville, or they were before Asheville was flooded, they would jump up and come and see me. You know, I know you. Hello. You're part of me.
Beautiful, beautiful. And so I'm just wondering if, say, like tonight,
Hmm.
people who are listening say, I want to connect with the wolves. Is there any type of certain meditation that they would need to do to be able to connect? Is there a secret way to connect with the wolves?
Tell them that you want to wake up and you want to find your inner self and you want to know their wisdom. And it may not happen immediately, but it will happen. I know a lot in a lot of my meditation classes. If I say, let's let a spirit animal come in, about 90% of those will be wolves. And I believe they come in to help me and to help the person. You know, we
Beautiful.
had that in the summit, and he was saying, so many people right now have wolves as a because they're teachers. And so we were saying it's a pretty normal thing that that particular power animal is appearing to people in their meditations. So they're out there and they want to help and say,
Beautiful.
help me. They are a little blunt, though, about what you should change within yourself and your life. I'll just be honest about that.
Well, plain talk is easy to understand.
There you go.
Very great. So now again, for
Hmm.
people who may just now be tuning in, can you share your website and how people can contact you?
Sure. It's onetrueself.com, ONE, trueself.com, or onetrueself at gmail.com, because that was what the wolf showed me that I had. That there might be lots of me because I'm a complex person, but there's only one part of me that's real, and that's the true self. And I don't know why, but when I was thinking about what could I name it, I opened up a book and Socrates was talking about the true self and how there was only one of those. So I was like, well, that's easy.
Wow, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. I want to thank you for giving your time and sharing your wisdom about the wolves. And I don't know about everybody else, but I, for one, am going to be on the lookout for your book. I really want to
Okay.
read all those stories about the wolf wisdom, and you'll have to let us know when it's out.
Okay, I enjoyed it so much, and you all have beautiful energy. Thank you for being with me and meditating with me and everything else.
It was fun. It was great, and I appreciate your being here. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always fun to see you.
We have some good conversations, don't we?
Definitely.
Great. Well, thank you again. And I'm going to bring Phil Gruber up right now. Phil, if you want to go ahead and come up, let me
Yep,
bring you.
here I am.
All right. So I think most all of our audience knows you, loves you, and is excited to see you again. And for those of you who may not have heard before, I'm getting ready to take a sabbatical for at least a year. Super excited. Got lots of great things. So, Julia, that's why I was so excited to have you as my guest tonight. It's like, oh, I get to interview Julia before I take off. So I was really excited. So thanks again. But I wanted to, during this time, it's like, I don't know. I don't want the cosmic conversations to go away. What am I going to do? It's like, I'm going to get a hold of
Who
Phil. I'm going to get a hold of Phil. Phil has been
you
there
gonna
since the
call?
very beginning. Phil has been there supporting when it was Wish Alliance, then the Galactic Alliance, and then Can took it over. And Phil's been there every step of the way as a cheerleader, as a supporter, as a phenomenal human being. And Phil, I just want to, first let people know I'm kind of officially passing the baton to you tonight, although I don't have a baton. I have
Oh my
this
God,
pretend baton to pass.
got it.
And I want to just have you to tell people a little bit about yourself and what they can expect to see in the next coming months.
A little bit about myself. That's a stretch.
We have 6 minutes, let me tell you. We have 6 minutes.
A lot of people out there already know me. We're going to have amazing. It's going to be not that much different than it's been, except that I'll be hosting it. Matt Anderson will kind of be my sidekick off and on when he's free. We have a bunch. Julia, we'll have you back.
Okay.
We'll have you back before too long. This was fascinating. I'm hearing a lot about wolves lately from everywhere. I'm seeing wolves. I just got back from LA and everywhere, well, and in the Southwest, and everywhere I looked, even in the window of the Hard Rock Cafe on Hollywood Boulevard, there's a wolf.
That's their sign. They're going to
It,
change everything and teach us all to manifest from our souls.
it seems from like many, many different corners, they're coming back into consciousness. The knowledge that they have, the depth of their consciousness, they've been around a long time, and now I think it's time for them to reemerge what they have to tell us, to share with us, to help us through these transitional periods. It's really amazing, you know. And then you have all these movies coming out now, another spate of movies about vampires and wolves. They seem to be nemesis from like arch enemies from
I think
way,
some
way, way
people
back.
who are dark want to pretend like they're werewolves.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
that's where I think that comes from. They wish they could turn into a wolf.
this is true. Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the
Mhm.
moon is full and bright. The
Well,
werewolf,
wolfbane
Larry
is just
Talbot.
arnica, and it's a healing herb. That's what
That's,
wolfbane is.
that's
But
right.
I mean, when I lived with him, I dreamed with him every single night, and what we mostly did was run around.
But it's amazing. You have the underworld movies, you have the Twilight movies. There seems to be this ongoing battle for millennia, wolves and vampires, you know? And it's amazing that it's just coming. There's a whole new spate of movies about this. I remember in Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein, one of the best lines is Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, says to Abbott and Costello, every time there's a full moon, I become a wolf. And Costello goes, yeah, you and 10,000 other guys. It's like,
Well, they mix it up. All the mythology is that way. The wolves have always been good and always to help us. Um,
no, that is very true.
and so if they mix up the mythology, we can't find our way or listen to them. Just like I was terrified of wolves because of Little Red Riding Hood and the three, Big Bad Wolf and the Three Pigs.
Yeah.
They don't
No,
want us to have the true mythologies.
no, the true mythologies of the Lycan and the whole thing around lycanthropy and what does that mean and what is it teaching us and what has it been veiling all these years and with folk tales and fairy tales, the truth has always been, encoded in them if you could
If you
see
could
or
go
read
that
between the
deep.
lines. But now
Yeah.
it's coming in. The thing about the one true self, that is there's nothing I think more important than rediscovering your authenticity and your genuineness. Our word kiss comes from the Gaelic kaith, and that means to appear without disguise.
Oh,
So when
interesting.
you can do that sacred kiss, like in the worship of the Eucharist, when you can be genuine, and Sheila, we've all talked about this before, when you can be your authentic self, then you can kiss, then you can share that same breath, then you can share that same spirit.
Like heart and
And
earth are anagrams and rose and eros are
Mhm.
it,
anagrams.
it's really is liberating when you give yourself permission to be who you really are or who you were really meant to be. That's what a revelation that is. And that's just pure joy in that revelation. So I'm excited to be handed this baton, and I think I'm up to it, and I want to make you all proud.
Well, you
Oh,
certainly have some interesting thoughts.
Well, yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
But Julia, we'll certainly have to have you back. And once a month, I think, we'll have like mini panels. We'll have like a few people from different disciplines or from different points of view. Sheila gave me a list of a bunch of wonderful people that she would like to see on. And I don't know a lot of these people, and I would love to have them on. Sure, we have our own list of people that we would like to have on. But it's going to be really fascinating. And Sheila, I'm going to have to memorize your introductory speech because I want people to know
I'll
all
type
the
it up and send it to
platforms.
you.
I mean, this is literally, I was in a hostel in LA and I think Ryukyu, what is it called again?
Roku.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and there it was, a cosmic conversation, in the banana bungalow hostel on on Hollywood Boulevard, and there it was, a cosmic conversation, so this is going out on multiple platforms. The reach that Cosmic Conversations has is pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. There's nothing like seeing it live and experiencing it live like we are now. But just the fact that you have access to it and all this wonderful knowledge and these people with so much to share, it's amazing. So thank you for passing it on to me, and I will try to be worthy, you know.
You'll do an excellent job. And I see Matthew is here. Matthew, I'm going to bring you up so people can see. There we go. Hey, Matthew.
Yeah,
Hello there.
check the braids, man.
I love it.
These are exciting times to live. So light and knowledge, let it come forth.
Yeah, Matthew's in Singapore now, so we get a chance to hang out for a few days. He's been in
Yeah.
Singapore before, but I get a chance to show him around some of my favorite places to be.
Fun.
Yeah.
And Phil performed last night and played the guitar like a master.
Yeah, three-quarters of my band, we played live at this little club. And so that was cool. So Matt got a chance to see that, and I'll show Matt around, you
Aw,
know. Nice place to
that's
visit
beautiful.
Singapore. Wouldn't want to live here, although I have for the last 17 years.
Yeah, I
It's
always hear
just
how hot it
hot.
is, but yet there you are.
You
It's
must be
just
there for a
unrelenting
reason.
heat and humidity. I'm not used to this. I'm from the Northeast, and my family's from the Austrian Alps. We like it a little nippy, you know, but you're not going to find that here.
Mm.
Anyway,
Right.
I love it, and I love always coming back to the States. And Julie, you're in North Carolina now, based in
No,
North Carolina.
I'm in North Georgia.
Oh, in North Georgia. Well,
I'm
that's
about an hour and a half, 2 hours above Atlanta.
I will try to. Oh, wow. I will try to make it to the East Coast my next trip next year.
It's
I really.
really hot here now.
Yeah, I could imagine. So cool. Well, it's been wonderful, listening to you this past hour. And Sheila, of course you'll come back now and
Oh,
then to
of
Grace
course.
Cosmic
Of course.
Conversations.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And we're
And
going to keep Susie, of course. There's not going to
of
be that many
course.
changes. Of course, we're going to keep Susie. Actually, it's going to be Susie for 55 minutes and one of us for 5 minutes.
Don't you say that, Phil. Don't say that because I'll play for 55 minutes. You just
I
watch
know
me.
you can. No, Susie stays. Susie is part of the family here, and that's going to stay. That's not going to change.
Beautiful. Well,
Yeah.
Phil, again, I want to thank you so much. I know Cosmic Conversations is going to be in good hands, good hands. I will be back to visit, and I want to thank everyone for, sticking with us. I mean, gosh, we've been doing this 5 going on 6 years. So thank you so much. We've grown from having a couple people to who knows how many people's watching us now and how many lives that we've been impacting because the whole purpose was to serve as one of the communication hubs to send out the vibrational frequency to help raise the planetary awareness. So thank you guys for being part of that. I really appreciate it. I send much love to everyone. And until I see you again, much love, everyone. Namaste and
Bye.
many blessings.
See you all
Bye.
Thank
next
you
week.
guys so
Okay.
much.
Big
Good
hug.
night, everyone.
Thanks, Sheila.
Take
Thanks,
care,
Phil.
everyone.
Bye, honey.
Julia.
So
Big
nice to meet everybody.